Hello, guys, and welcome to a new series, Alternate History of the World. Alternate history of the world that will go into an alternate future. I'm still working on the alternate future map, but don't worry, it's not gone. I just have to fix it. It's getting annoying to them. Um, so yeah. So this is the Cold War map directly after um World War II. So the alliances don't exist. But yet, anyway, they're soon to be formed. It's 1946, I think, is what this map's supposed to be of. So, yeah. So, the first thing we're actually going to be looking at is not alliances. It's something in British Ghana. Not this part of British Ghana. Oh, I don't know why there are two British Ghanas, but this part of British Ghana is going to revolt from the United Kingdom. Well, not all of it, obviously. Not everybody in this colony wants it, but these sections of Ghana begin to revolt from the United Kingdom. The UK tells France to get involved, but France is having some trouble in their colonies as well, so they can't. The rebels quickly take over the northern bit and establish independence rather quickly. This will lead to a chain reaction across Western Africa, with several countries declaring independence, including this Western Ghanan country. Um, some countries in Benin and Togo will declare joint independence together. They call themselves the Federation of Benin and Togo, as it's both nations together. The Ivory Coast declares independence. These aren't the right borders because the they didn't want the right borders. Niger declares independence. Um, Senegal declares independence. Guinea declares independence, who also owns Burkina Faso. This is the Guinea and Burkina Faso Federation, and this will declare independence as Mauritania, Mali. Nigeria will remain loyal, as well as Cameroon. The Gambia declares independence. Sierra Leone declares independence. Portuguese Guinea-Bissau declares independence. So all of this, except for did I say Nigeria declared independence? No, they're not independent. That will come later. But Nigeria, Cameroon, all of those ones except for them are now independent. But over on the alliance map mode, the formation of NATO is created. Wait, the formation of NATO is created? Huh? And it includes America and Canada, obviously. But let's just get Canada down in the blue. And now for Europe. I'm not going to color in colonies on this map mode, just so you know. So don't tell me I've gotten, well, that I've colonies that are down there that are not colored in with the alliance map mode because I'm not doing them. These countries. And French Guiana isn't full part of France yet, I don't think. Maybe it is, I'm not sure, but I know Algeria was. So that's colored in there. And then there's the Benelux, and obviously the German occupation zones. Whoa. Let me color that in. There's the United Kingdom and Norway. And then just a sec, I need to color in the United Kingdom. Whoa. Another island. The United Kingdom and Denmark, which is kind of obviously that they were going to join because they colored in Greenland, but Denmark and Austrian, not Austrian occupation zone. And Russia, the Soviet Union sees this and they're like, hey, can we join? And the US is like, no. And that's this angers the Soviet government and who will declare war on no, I misspoke. Who will form their own alliance out of their puppet states called the Warsaw Pact, which looks something like this. Albania, Yugoslavia refrain from joining. I cannot speak English today for some reason, but Soviet Union, I need to cover in all the random islands that they have to own. I can't just put them to China or something. That Mongolia and these there. Also, was the Chinese Civil War up by 1946? I do not think so. So here, oh, why am I coloring this in with the NATO alliance color? Ah, get out. Okay. Now we can color in China blue. Now, the blue color, why is it not working? Oh, sorry. The blue color is the Republic of China, like nationalist China, whatever it is. Just so you know, this color is the communists. Now, this isn't exactly right at what their borders were in 1946, but I don't know, so. However, due to Japan weakening the nationalists severely during World War II, they'll begin expanding a lot and a lot and a lot around through China, down to Myanmar, and through Shanghai. But before they can do any further expanding than this, the British will join the war against the communists, not wanting communists right on their border. Soviet Union gets angered by this, but they don't declare war because they don't want to have to go to war with NATO. And British troops begin arriving. Another reason Britain joined is they thought that they might lose their lease on Hong Kong and other Chinese port cities if the communists won. But British support helps a whole lot for the nationalists going up and up. Also, I forgot to color in nationalist line Tibet. They go up further and up, further and up, further and up and up and up further until the Chinese communists are pushed back to the Mongolian border, and then the Chinese communists flee into Mongolia. However, the Chinese government pays no attention to this. And then the Soviet Union, before the peace treaty is officially signed, Soviet Union makes a deal with the Mongolian government, which is to allow People's Republic of China to reside in the southern part of their nation in exchange for severe consequences. Just kidding. In exchange for quite a lot of economic cooperation with Mongolia, even though they're already economically cooperating, lots of funds, improving of Mongolia's infrastructure, and developing them up until the point where they could be compared with Eastern European nations like Poland. But anyway, back down to China. The British are like, maybe could we have like some land for helping you? China agrees. Myanmar is extended a little bit. So is I think India revolted in 1947. So I don't know why these borders are like this, but just India is still British colony. Right now, anyway. As well as the extension of the Hong Kong colony to cover more area around it. And very heavy, as well as British control over Hainan and Taiwan. Kind of ironic that Taiwan isn't even a Republican Chinese. Well, in our world, it was went to the Chinese. Well, it was the only one to that China, the ROC actually kept. But Britain and China now have very, 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 very good relations from this war. And go with those borders. But what happens right away? But several rebel groups breaking out in British India, British Raj. So there's first there's the Pakistani independence moves in Pakistan. India has the Indian independence moves. All across their area. As well as up here. There's Bangladeshi independence moves, which actually are leaking into modern day Indian territory. Burmese independence moves. And some possibly, keyword possibly, funded pro China rebels. India, well, not India. Oh, I also forgot one. Well, the British are like, what is happening? And they call out for help to China, also the Balochistan rebels. But anyway, they call out to China. They're like, "We helped you in your civil war. Can you please help us with this mess?" As the war begins to um start actually. There's so many rebel groups here. But anyway, um as the rebel groups begin to expand the areas under their control, they're also showing hostilities to each other, with Pakistanis firing on Balochistanis and Indians firing on Pakistanis and a whole bunch of stuff, showing that these rebellions were not organized. It's just they saw an opportunity to do what they could, and so they did. Um, Also, this is not the way that the British Raj actually got independence in our timeline. It was peaceful, not fighting, but that's is how it's getting independence in our not in our timeline. In this timeline, the Indians push along their coast, taking over more of, well, India. Even up here, they push against some pro-Chinese reunification forces. China promises they aren't funding the Chinese pro-China rebel forces and promise to get involved on the British side after seeing the amount of British losses that are happening in this war. However, Britain is like, you don't have to join if you don't want to, but China is like, I want to. So China joins, and this traps a lot of rebel groups that are in the north. But we'll get to that in just a sec. The Balochistanis begin pushing farther, and Britain realizes it could be a lot easier for them to just let Balochistan go, as they don't really need that area this much as other areas in India and Pakistan, and they're just wasting their resources trying to keep it. So they allow Balochistan to have independence from the British Raj. This angers Pakistan, but they don't want to fight a war with a now established nation, and so they, at least for now, they might later. So for now, they'll just stick to taking over the lands in Pakistan. They also go into Indian territory, which angers the Indian rebel groups, and soon they begin to consolidate. I can literally not speak. Consolidate the most of Pakistan into their rebel group, as well as some of Kashmir. However, India also begins to do the same, taking some of Kashmir, as well as actually entering into Chinese territory, at least for now, and begin to push. However, they also invade into Tibet a tiny bit, but their main focus is not invading China, but consolidating control over India, thus getting their independence if they can do it. And they're beginning to work towards this, gaining quite a lot of land until they look like this, covering all of India, and all of it. But then the Chinese come in. They push out the Chinese rebel group in the north, pro-Chinese rebel group, and begin invading into the Indian rebel group and the Pakistani rebel group to push them out. They completely overrun and destroy the pro-Chinese rebel group and are easily wipe out that side of the Indian revolt. The Bangladeshi revolt picks up, taking more Indian land and blocking India from going into the other half of their nation unless they want to fully invade China. Burma takes the tail and begins moving upward towards the northern border, entering into some Chinese lands. And despite China's cooperation, it seems that the Raj is a lost cause as more and more forces arrive and China is even somewhat pushed back, and India takes these territories. The rebel groups sign a truce not to attack each other because of China's joining, and the British were kind of depending on them attacking each other, but now they aren't going to. Pakistan has consolidated all they can for now, and just Bangladesh has taken quite a lot of Indian land, and Britain tells China it's probably for the best that they sign a peace treaty with the rebel groups. Now, what this peace treaty does is basically divide the rebel groups' lands based on what they controlled at the start. Those made clear that no occupied Chinese land was going to be conquered, no matter what. So, yeah. But anyway, the Kashmir region was divided along these lines. Stops at the border with China, well, Tibet. But anyway, down here, this goes to the Pakistanis, that goes to the Indians, that goes to the Pakistanis again, this goes to the Indians again, and up to Kashmir with Bangladesh. It's this that becomes the eastern border of the nation, making them look like that. And obviously, they don't gain any Chinese land. They also gained this as their border. However, they lose part of their tail panhandle thing down there to the Burmese rebel group, who will gain some land. Obviously. And then nothing with that border changes except this. Now, might be wondering, there's some pockets of British control, British Chinese control mix in the British Raj towards the northern border with China. But, as you might be thinking about those, how is Britain going to control them. So it'd be rather hard with all these new independent nations in the way with their land gains, walking them completely off from the well, not from the peninsula, from the northern part of India and Pakistan. And so, just a second, let me finish these borders. Well, China and Russia, what? No, China and Britain will come to a deal. China will annex these lands in exchange for paying some money to the British. So, good for you, China, I guess. Good for you, China. But, oh, she made a big mistake. Mistake. And this area of northern Myanmar will go to the Chinese. This will go to China-aligned Tibet, as well as this, basically making Tibet a ginormous China-aligned buffer zone between China and the Indian subcontinent. Nobody knows why China is doing this, but China must certainly have a reason. Just no one knows what it is yet. The Bangladesh country. The Bangladesh country. I'm so Wixo. Bangladesh. I don't need to call it the Bangladesh country. But Bangladesh will annex all these lands. And finally, Burma will annex these. Nothing too big, but not too small either. And that will do it. Independence, revolution in the British Raj. And also for today's episode, hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers, and I'll see you next time.